This project's going to be in Adobe Photoshop, so if you don't have that open, you should open it now. Once you get it open, we're going to go to File and Open. We're going to the Layers folder, and there should be 3 pictures there. We're going to open all 3 pictures. Now, if I drag a selection just by clicking my left mouse button and dragging over all 3 files, see all 3 of them are highlighted. I can click Open, and all 3 pictures will open. We need to have our Layers palette open, this little box that says Layers at the top. If I click on whichever picture I click on, you can see a little small thumbnail of that picture with background beside it in the Layers palette. So what I want to do is take the picture that is just the little creek there with nothing in it. We're going to kind of drag it out of the way. And I'm going to take the picture with the goose in it and drag it up where I can see it. And I'm going to drag my Layers palette over to the side. Now, if you don't have a Layers palette showing, all you have to do, let's pretend mine wasn't showing. All I have to do is go up to where it says Windows across the top, click, and come down to where it says Layers, and click. And that opens up the Layers palette. The Layers palette allows us to have different objects on different layers so we can treat them differently. In other words, well, let's go ahead and do this. It'll be easier for you to see. I'm going to take my polygonal lasso tool. We used it a couple projects back. It's right here. I'm going to click on that. Remember, there's lasso tool, polygonal lasso tool, and magnetic lasso tool. We're going to use a polygonal lasso tool. And I'm going to click and go around the goose, going very carefully. Remember, each time we click, it puts down an anchor point. So I'm just clicking my way around it. Now I'm trying to stay right along the edge as I go around the top of the goose. Now when we get to the bottom of the goose, we're going to do it a little bit differently, but right here along the top, I'm just trying to follow the edge as closely as I can. Now when I get down to where the goose is going into the water, I'm coming out away from his reflection a little bit, making a little wider sweep around the reflection in the water. Then where he comes out of the water, I'm going right back up against the edge. And I'm going to finish going around the goose here. Just clicking my way around until I get back to my starting point. Now remember, when I get back to the starting point, the little 0 appears beside my lasso telling me I'm back over the starting point. When I click there, I get the little moving dotted line around it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up to Edit and click Copy. Then I'm going to close the goose picture. I don't have to save it. I'm going to drag back up the creek picture. Now I'm going now, first, look at my layers. The background layer has got a little thumbnail of the creek. There are no other layers. But when I do Edit, Paste, there's my goose. And notice it put a picture of him on a separate layer. That means when I take the Move tool, if I'm on that layer and I move him, the goose moves. If I'm on the background layer, nothing moves because it's locked. Now, if I want to unlock the background layer, I have to change the name because the background layer is locked. If I double click it, and I could put down whatever name I wanted there, I'm going to go ahead and say Creek. Click OK. Now it's called Creek. Now if I use the Move tool, I can move that layer also, which I don't really want to do right now, so I'm going to either Edit Undo or do Control Z to undo. I'm going to click on the goose layer, and I'm going to move him down. I'm going to hold down Control key and hit T. Puts a little bounding box around him. Hold down Shift key, drag from the corner. Make him about the size that looks normal for the creek. Now, I'm going to use my magnifying glass to zoom in. See, the edges of the water doesn't quite look normal or natural there, so I'm going to come in and take the eraser right here. I'm going to make sure under brushes that I've got kind of a blurry edge brushes. Now yours may look a little different, but the ones that look fuzzy like that, where they kind of look blurry, we want one of those. And on the opacity, maybe 25-30%, somewhere in there. And I'm just going to kind of erase away the edges. I'm doing that by holding down the left mouse button, or kind of clicking the left mouse button and going around the edges. See how I can just fade away the edges of this. Just like that. The reason we're doing this is to make it kind of blend in with the water below it. So now if I zoom back out, it looks a little more natural. Now, if it still shows up too much, I'm right-clicking, dragging my brush up a little bigger, and I'm going to drop my opacity down a little lower so it happens a little slower. I could actually drag over the entire reflection a little bit, holding my mouse button down, and lighten up the reflection. And so it blends a little more into the water. Okay, so now if I click that off, you can see the goose is on a separate layer. If I was on the wrong layer and I was erasing, watch what happens. I'm erasing through the creek, but we don't want to do that, so I'm going to do undo. Alright, I'm going to take the other picture. We're doing the exact same thing. I'm taking the polygonal lasso tool, going around the edge, click at a time. And I'm rushing this just a little bit so you don't have to sit forever. You might want to take a little more time than I'm doing, try to get a better selection. Staying right against the edge till I get to where the duck's going into the water. I make a little wider loop around his reflection, remembering that we're going to erase away some of that. That's why I'm doing that. I do edit copy. I can close that now. I don't have to save it. I do edit paste. There he is, pretty large. We don't want him that big. I'm going to do a Control T, holding down Control, hitting the T as in Tom. Hold down the Shift key, drag from the corner. Make him an appropriate size and relation. Make sure he's the right proportion, meaning that he's the right size in comparison to the things around him. About like that. Hit the Enter key. Take the magnifying glass, zoom in. Take the eraser, right click, make it a little smaller. Drop this down again to maybe 20 or 30, somewhere in that area. And I'm erasing away the edge one more time. Notice it's made another layer. This is the layer that the duck is on now, not the goose. I have to make sure I'm on that layer when I'm erasing, otherwise I may be erasing through the water or something else, depending on what layer I'm on. You want to be on the layer with the duck. You're automatically on that layer when you paste them, unless you click and change to something else. Okay, I've got the edges away, right clicking to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to go over the entire reflection just to drop it down a little bit. Don't want to drop the duck down, just his reflection. I can use a magnifying glass, click the minus sign up here, click to zoom out. Now if I take the move tool, I can move him around wherever I want him. If I want him facing another direction, I could do edit, transform, and I could do flip horizontal. And he flips over where he's facing the other direction. Okay. And something like that's about what we want. Make sure when you get this finished that you do File, Save As. You're going to save that to your folder in the Work to Be